Well, to talk about this, I'm joined by 4 members of the European Parliament. We have Andreas Schwab, who is a Christian Democrat MEP from Germany and who also sits on the Consumer Protection Committee there. We have Nigel Farage, who leads the UK Independence MEPs in the European Parliament. We also have Michael Cashman, who is a member of the Parliament's Friends of Turkey group, formerly also on the Foreign Affairs Committee and speaks for Labour on development issues. And we have Željko Kacin, who is a Liberal from Slovenia, a former Defence Minister in your country, and also you're in charge of pulling together the Parliament's response on the eventual accession, perhaps, of Serbia to the European Union. Can I ask you, first of all, Michael, whether you agree with the warning that the EU could slide into irrelevance if it becomes too inward-looking, a warning from that reflection group that was commissioned to say where the EU is going?
Absolutely. I think the example, you need to look no further than the treaties that we've concocted, only to come back and look at them again. We need treaties in order to make this place work, but I think what we should be doing is an audit of what we've agreed amongst member states, the laws that we've agreed. Have we implemented them? Are they working? Do we need to review them? Instead of always this introspection which the public do not understand about treaty formula and pushing referenda all the time. So, yeah, I do agree.
But then, is that necessarily something to include moving outwards and allowing others to join the European Union? Surely it's time, as the French minister recently said, Pierre Lelouch, to get the house in order first.
Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? I think the French can't give us or anybody else any lectures about agreeing and then enforcing. But we've got very good records on this, certainly in the United Kingdom. But the accession process is something that we began, in some instances, 40 years ago. If we now pull back, our claim to abide by principle and enforce principle is absolutely lost. So the accession process that we started, we now need to conclude, and I agree, thereafter we should think very carefully before we go into further enlargement. But this enlargement process is underway, and if we now abandon it, we lose any legal or moral authority in the world.
But, I mean, there is also the small point of the voters, the citizens. And Andreas Schwab, your country, Germany, is one where there is very strong public worry about the EU continuing to enlarge to include more members, notably in the case of Turkey, but not only that. How do you deal with that as a politician?
So I think we have to accept that the Council and the Parliament have agreed to start negotiations. We weren't in favour, but we have lost. And we will now check as to whether this process is
you
honestly
meaning the
done.
Christian Democrats who
Exactly.
were not in government
And
at the
I
time.
believe that Turkey, for the time being, has not made enough efforts to follow that way that we have offered to them. We haven't helped them maybe enough, but on the other side, it's also their turn to help us to convince the public in Europe that they are ready and willing to cope with the issue in front of us.
Turkish flag is a red one. But if you observe, and we need to observe Turkey from Iran, from Caucasus, from Iraq, from Syria, it's very blue. It's a representative of Europe, Europe's values. Their economy is doing quite well, so it's a prosperous country. And we simply need to grow, we, Europeans, European Union. We need to be much more self-confident. And the main problem that we are confronted with is the fact that our leaders are following public opinion. Leaders need to create and to change the public opinion. Leaders need to lead and to give us a future more ambitious, more prosperous. We simply need to move up.
Doesn't that really mean ignore public opinion? I mean, isn't that what's really going on here? It's all well and good to talk about leading, but actually, if you look at the development of this European project over the last few years, it's all been done by lies and deceit. You know, getting treaties through by changing their name, ignoring referendum results. And on this question that we're debating now, enlargement, I mean, it's not just in Germany. You know, right across the European Union, there are major questions about open borders, immigration with very, very poor countries. I mean, the vast majority of people in Northern Europe would not support an enlargement that would include a country like Turkey. And I just think this gap between what the professional career politicians want and what the people want is getting wider and wider and wider, and we can't go on like
the
this.
United Kingdom in the
No, but
European
Michael,
Union.
I mean, Nigel...
So why should we...
Well, let's have a referendum on it, shall we?
Absolutely.
You support that, would you?
I'd love to.
Well, why did
But
your
we
government
have,
break its promise then?
We didn't. Just let's get
Michael,
we didn't have a referendum debate on in or out. I'd love to.
On
have
anything.
that. I'd love to.
Michael
have that.
Cashman, we have
did in
seen, though,
75.
in the results of the referendums in France and the Netherlands in 2005, we've seen the result of politicians not listening. And worries about enlargement were, in fact, manifested in those results.
Well, I'm not. I think you can look at any results and turn them into what you want to reinforce your argument. I believe you go into politics in order to have a view of the future. You shape public opinion. You lead public opinion.
Accession process makes enlargement possible, and the enlargement brings European Union into new countries. As soon as you are a member of European Union, there is no need anymore to emigrate. We don't emigrate anywhere. We emigrate to new member countries because we are making business there. So as soon as Turkey will become part of European Union, there will be no need anymore to go to the European Union because European Union will be there. There will be investment.
But that is not what actually has happened,
When
is it?
Poland joined the EU, 1 million Poles came to Britain in 18 months. 1 million.
All of them, they went back.
And over half have stayed. Over half have stayed.
And this is what we found in Spain.
Over half have
This
stayed.
is what we found
No,
when
Michael.
Spain joined us.
You see, you're burying your head in the sand again.
Listen,
Completely
Nigel,
ignoring the stats.
and
frankly, do you believe in democracy, Michael? Because all this talk about leading opinion, at some point, you have to recognise
And you
that
know what
people
democracy is? People
want this.
don't vote you back in. But Nigel, let's talk about what people who work in our country from other EU countries contribute to the economy of our country. Never.
What about social security?
Never cut these people off.
What about
You're
unemployment?
talking about a minority of people.
What about unemployment?
And you
They're
should not
contributing. They're
denigrate
paying
people.
your own- No,
this is not about denigration, it's about control.
Okay, Andreas and then Jelko.
Turkey will be much more difficult to handle on this because the poverty is much lower, and the poverty is much higher.
And
so
the
we
population
are facing
is-
a bigger trouble there.
We speeded it up in terms of, in particular, Bulgaria and Romania.
That was a mistake. Big mistake.
And yet, Turkey, who's been in line much longer than anybody else, we keep saying, not enough, not enough. And my biggest fear is that Turkey will decide that it wants to end the discussion.
Michael mentions the case of Bulgaria and Romania, that it was done too fast. They weren't ready. Well, that's an important point. And in a sense, the EU only has itself to blame, doesn't it, if this public opinion exists against further enlargement because they keep fudging it, just like they fudged with the euro,
And
which
we
is why
fudged
we
over
have the problem
Cyprus.
at the moment. Isn't that true?
Well, Bulgaria and Romania together, they are smaller than Poland itself. So it's not a huge problem. These economies are developing. And going back to Turkey, Turkey is the most developed economy in the region. And it will be even more developed when the accession is going to happen. We need to be stronger, more successful. That's why we need to enlarge and to improve our
We don't want to
shape.
be only
Nigel.
economic global player.
Andreas,
This is the talk of empires, isn't it? You know, empires always need to expand. It's a wonderful way to have debates like this of distracting attention from what's really going on. And of course, what's really going on is a failed monetary system is probably going to hit the buffers before Christmas. And I mean, there is, as far as I can see, the risk of a sovereign default in Greece or Spain before Christmas it's a better than 50% chance. And again, another project, the Euro project, that's been pushed upon people without anybody ever being asked. Had the Germans had a referendum on this, I'm quite certain they would have said no to the Euro.
is this
and now
the
they're picking up
time?
the
Is
Nigel's
this really
looking to
the time?
past. Let's look to the future.
Sovereign debt.
Even in the
Well,
past, there
this
is a
is
majority in
the
favour now.
present, isn't it, Michael? It's a reality, the currency crisis.
Unless we deal with where we want to be, we can't solve the problems of the present. We can only solve the problems of a financial, economic crisis, which is sweeping across the globe, by doing it collectively. Nigel's answer that we cut off
North
and
and South don't
separate
work.
means that you become weaker. And that is why I'm so happy to disagree with him on his view of the world and his view of the United Kingdom in Europe.
Okay, Andreas.
The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I mean, it's true that the Germans were at the beginning against the euro, but in the end, they were happy with it.
What, paying the bills?
No,
Bailing out
that's
Greece?
something different now. With the money, they were happy.
Do you think
Now
the Germans are happy with the euro today?
No, that has changed, and it's true that we have a serious problem. We have to handle better the eurozone. No doubt about that. But we have to do that in future. We didn't foresee the Lehman Bank crisis.
And it is misleading, isn't it, Nigel, to talk about all these countries as if they're all basket cases. Estonia has a predicted growth rate for next year of 5%. It's a lot better than Britain.
I think
Iceland.
If we look at human rights in Romania, we just turned a blind eye to the way the Roma are treated, the way that organised crime still has a grip over Bulgaria, and we turned a blind eye to it. Look, I just think, as far as the Balkans are concerned, you know, we're dealing with countries that in the 1990s fought to break away from political union and have their own independence, and now, through a political class who themselves will get very rich indeed, we're actually encouraging these countries to rejoin a political union. I think it is a very, very dangerous thing indeed.
Very briefly, Michael.
It was called Yugoslavia, Michael.
Okay.
I'm not doing
It
well
was called
because they
Yugoslavia.
chose
Okay, let
to
Michael
enter
make his
the
point very
EU.
briefly.
But look
It was
at
called
Poland.
Yugoslavia.
Poland had teething
different.
troubles with, no, not Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovenia, Slovakia, all of them under Soviet domination, and they took a decision to voluntarily join countries and others
History of
where they
Yugoslavia,
had...
Michael.
Okay, well,
force countries
that's
together
for
and it
another
caused
day.
No one's forcing
Don't do it again.
To find out more about who we are and what we stand for, go to the UK Independence Party website at www.ukip.org.